Hey, we're live once again. Another edition of Boxing Shit. We had some good boxing going down this past weekend, and we're here to discuss what's going on with your boss.
Not much. I haven't really slept that well, but well enough to be able to sit here and talk to you anyway.
Who needs sleep when we got good boxing action going on?
Yeah, that's right. Who needs that?
Yeah, so of course we're gonna talk about the stuff from the past weekend. A lot of great fights. We had a fight of the year candidate that we're gonna talk about in what was Luis Nery versus Azat Hovhannisyan. But we're gonna start with a big time fight that took place over in the UK, and this was a WBA featherweight championship fight between Leigh Wood, who brought in or came in as the actual champion, taking on Mauricio Lara. Neither of these two men are strangers to upsets. Of course, Leigh Wood was able to dethrone or knock off Michael Cunlin last year
Yeah.
in what was an excellent fight. Mauricio Lara, we know that he has upset the apple cart on the likes of Josh Warrington,
hmm
and it's someone that Warrington hasn't seemingly wanted to take on since then. But maybe he's going to be forced into it here at some point after this. But it was an excellent fight, or at least it had some good moments in it, and this
Yeah.
was typically when they were exchanging. But it was an excellent matchup, just given that we know that Wood is game, and he was going to bring it at all times. And Lara, at any moment, he can rattle off a bunch of shots, get into a fireworks match with you, and end things. And of course, this
Mm.
ended via seventh round TKO in favor of Mauricio Lara, who is now the WBA World Featherweight Champion. And with that, what were your thoughts on how things went down, Boz?
Yeah, I thought it would really. He fought a really good fight, and he pretty much dominated most of the rounds. I thought Lara only won, or Lara the second round before the end, and
That's
even
fair.
that seventh round, he wasn't winning it when he got that knockout. But yeah, I mean, in the second round, when he did connect, he did seem to kind of rattle Wood and hurt him with those
Yeah.
big
I
punches that
noticed
he
some
landed.
cuts start to open up. It was around the second round that the cuts started to open up on Wood,
Yeah,
and his nose
yeah.
was busted.
Wood was like trying to avoid his punches, and then he just it happened a clash of heads. But fortunately, that didn't affect the fight. Not like against with Lara's other fight previous
Oh
against
yeah,
Warrington. So I don't know really. I don't remember because, but that Warrington title was not on the line for. So Lara, this is the first world title that he won. So
yeah,
that's a good thing. But yeah, I didn't think he looked so good, until that knockout. It was just wow, like Wood was really doing well, and he was counter punching well and all that, really landing some good shots and had Lara hurt. But he simply isn't that big of a puncher that he could have just end him. I mean, stop him like in
yeah,
the before that, anyway, fifth, sixth round. So that became his end. Let's put it that way.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
not bad, not bad an effort from Wood, but yeah, you're right. He has good size and a decent amount of pop, I guess you can say, but not
yeah,
really that game changing type of punching power or
yeah,
pop that the likes of Mauricio Lara has and showed in this particular
yeah,
fight.
exactly.
And I think that was truly the separator there. And Wood, of course, I mentioned he's game because much like in the Conlon fight, he got hit with something huge and he was able to get up. And it's
Yeah,
miraculous that he was able to survive that Conlon fight because I thought it was over at that particular time when he got caught,
yeah,
which was that was about the second round of their fight or somewhere near
yeah.
there.
that knockdown happened at the end of the first, but
End of the
also
first.
in the
Okay.
second he got some. He was also jumped with way by Conan, and yeah, he's a tough guy. But and he also wanted to continue last night, but
Oh
his
yeah.
trainer stopped it, and that was a good thing because he
Yeah.
was not able to stand properly. He looked like unfocused, kind of, sluggish, and I don't know what the other word is.
Great
Just
point. Great
yeah,
point right there. Real quick shout out to Mr. Pads who's dropped in the building. Says big up Boz and Josh. Appreciate you dropping by,
hey,
Mr. Pad, as
what's
always.
up?
And then Mr. Pads missing he missed the Nery fight, but heard it's probably the best fight of the year so far. Yes, sir. Yes, indeed. We're gonna talk about that one for sure.
Yeah, I missed it too, but
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, fight of the year without a doubt. So
gonna have to
it's
fight.
one we'll definitely have to discuss. And then Mr. Paz says, "Did you see the tall guy Gary Cully?" LOL. So I have seen him fight before. I didn't see this fight. This is one I need to go back and watch. Cully, I know he got a second round TKO from what I was able
Oh
to see
yeah,
on the
I didn't
results
see
page.
that. No, I didn't see
Yeah, but
it.
I haven't seen that one yet, Mr. Pass. But it's one I'm definitely going to check out. Coley has looked good as far as what I've seen in his previous fights, the ones that I have seen, and it looks like it could be a problem, as you mentioned, long and lengthy. But I need to see what this fight looked like to kind of get a feel for how things went. but
Mm,
but yeah, Bod, you were making a great point there in terms of Laura's team actually stopped the fight. Ben Davidson's a trainer, and I want to say
Davidson, yeah,
that I saw a bunch of things online. Some people think it shouldn't have been stopped. Some saying that he should fire Ben Davidson because of the fact that Ben Davidson stopped it, etc., etc. I can speak from my own personal standpoint. Of course, I officiate here on the amateur side, and I've stopped some bouts that I stopped them early. I've been cussed out, people
yeah. I mean,
mad, and wanting to approach me and all that stuff. And the thing about this one that is different, in this case, the trainer actually stopped the fight. So that's what I
yeah,
think I prefer because the trainer is the one who's there on the day in and day out working with these fighters
yeah,
who see them in sparring, who see them when they're training and all that stuff, and have a better idea of the type of punishment they can withstand. So when a trainer steps in, I think that they have every right, and that shows that that
mm,
person really cares about their fighter because otherwise you can see some of these guys go on to take beatings and it does them no justice for the remainder of their career.
yeah. I mean, it was at the end of the round, but even so, even if he was allowed to continue, he would very likely would been stopped right after that in the next one. So and the referee looked like he was a little, confused. He wasn't sure whether he was going to allow it, but it looked like maybe yes, he was going to allow him to continue.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you said, Davidson did the best thing because he knows his fighter better than anybody else there. And I don't like this. I've seen in some fights, of course, in America, especially, you have kind of different rules in each state and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen sometimes the referee ignored the towel being thrown,
Oh
and
yeah.
I was like, "What? Can you do that? Why would you do that? Like."
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that
right.
was, I thought that was wrong.
Yeah, that
Simply.
happened with Yuri Foreman and Miguel Cotto. That's one of recent memory where that
Yeah.
happened, where Arthur McCanty Jr. he tossed the towel back out and let the fight
Oh
continue
yeah.
after Yuri Foreman's corner had thrown the towel in.
Right.
And then I think old classic example is back in the fight of this, I would say, fight of the millennium or fight of the century, just a fight of all fights. What I think is the most significant fight in boxing history is the Joe Louis versus Max Smelling fight. But
Yeah.
I know that the referee had instructions in that fight that if the cow came in, to ignore it because this was meant to be a statement making fight, regardless of who was on the upper hand or who had the upper hand. I think they weren't going to do anything or stop that regardless. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the towel may have come in or it may have been flashed or whatever, but the fight kept going on. It was not going to happen in that particular matchup,
Mm,
and that is a hugely significant fight and perfect example of
yeah.
such.
Well, I didn't know that really. Yeah, that's. I've seen, I think, that fight once at least, but yeah, it's kind of.
Yeah,
It's been a while anyway.
yeah. This was the rematch between Lewis and
Yeah,
Smelling.
1938, right?
Yeah, I
I think
believe
it
it
was.
was, and
And the
Lewis
first
battered
fight
Smelling.
was 36. I know that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So Lewis battered him in that rematch, and it was
Yeah, one round.
yeah,
That was sweet revenge, because Smelling, he was the first one that beat him and knocked him out for a long time. Nobody
yeah.
else was able to do that. For a long time after that. So,
Yep, June 22nd, 1938. But yeah, Smelling was a tough fighter.
yeah,
He was a very good fighter as well.
yeah,
And
a
though he was
smart
from
fighter.
Germany, I know he didn't subscribe to the Nazi beliefs and theory,
Yeah,
and he was kind of between a rock and a hard place being there from Germany. But he and
mm,
Joe Louis became very good friends in the aftermath of that rivalry.
nice. Yeah, Joe Max was. Yeah, I know that he kind of helped to hide some Jewish children during the war, and yeah, I mean, his trainer, I believe, also was Jewish, and his wife was Czech, I believe, from the Czech Republic. So
Hmm.
that was also not so very popular in Germany back then.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I can only imagine, but yeah, crazy, historic stuff right there. But
mm,
yeah, going back to I guess the modern time. So yeah, Mauricio Lara he moves on. There was a question in the aftermath of the fight of whether a rematch will happen. It seems like there's some form of a rematch clause. If it does happen, I think great. I think they still stylistically match up well to where the next fight should be very interesting, probably even more exciting than this one because I'd imagine we'll probably see a bit more back and forth because as you mentioned, Laura did look a bit sluggish coming out. It
yeah,
like he wasn't 100% in the fight until he was in the fight, of course, and changed the game. So I'd be interested in seeing a rematch.
yeah. I mean, he kept getting tagged, with clean shots, with some big ones, and I think the rematch would probably have to be different from Wood's perspective because here he simply got too aggressive for his own good. He got caught, and
Yeah.
he obviously has a tendency to get caught. So
Yeah, yeah, he
uh,
does. He does, and yeah, that's why I guess we kind of mentioned he's always games because he can take a shot, and he will
yeah,
continue to give back and dish it out himself. But yeah, that can be a sort of ticking time bomb, especially when you're in with big punchers. So he'll
mm,
definitely have to make that adjustment next time around because he had moments where he was playing the distance very well, and that's what was allowing them to be successful. So we'll have to keep that on the
yeah.
forefront at all times during the next contest.
I mean, against Conlon, he for a smart fight, you might say. He didn't just attack and try to knock him out. But why am I getting the echo? I hear
Oh,
my voice echo.
I wonder if it's from here, but
That's not a. Oh yeah, no, it's better. I think. Yeah, I don't like to hear my voice echo. Well, as I said, I was gonna say he fought the right fight against Conlan, but Lara and Conlan are the same type fighters. So
yeah,
anyway, he would have to be a little more, do a little bit more boxing and being more defensive and stuff. Then just go. Here he just went at Lara, tried to knock him out. That doesn't really work for him. That strategy.
yeah, yeah, good stuff. Shout out to my mom who says good evening, son and Boz. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday to you as well.
Happy
Appreciate you
Sunday.
being here without a doubt. Holding it down, showing support per use. And then Mr. Paz says no echo anymore. Appreciate that, Mr.
Good.
Paz. That might have been on my end in terms of I had my speaker a bit too loud. I need to make sure my mic setting is right. anyway. But thanks there for being able to give us the heads up that all is good. And then Mr. Pad says, Boston Jazz, did you have Wood winning prior to the knockout? I saw
Yeah,
some say 5-1 Wood and others 4-2 Wood. Yeah, I know Bob was just mentioning such. From my perspective, yeah, it looked like Wood was probably up more in that 4-2 range, I would say. But I could
yeah.
see 5-1 for the most part because he was doing really well up to that point. What do you think, Boz?
Yeah, I had him up by 5-1, and you can see it on the fight score, by the way. And 59-55. Yeah, I mean, it kind of looked, there were a couple rounds where Lara came back strongly at the end, like the last 30 seconds, but I felt that wasn't enough to give him the round or to make it an even one, so yeah. So
All
I
right.
had Lara really, I mean, Wood, I had by 4 points. Yeah,
Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, we both were probably in agreement there, or were in agreement there, Mr. Pass, that Wood was up, and he was adjusting fairly well. Laura, he had he wasn't really uh, fighting in a reckless manner. I would say we've seen him get into some exchanges, some firefights in the past that have left him susceptible to getting caught himself. But he wasn't fighting in such a reckless manner in this particular instance, though he did start fairly slow, as I was mentioning early. So in some of the exchanges, he got the better of Wood, but Wood was winning the rounds from an overall perspective.
yeah,
And
he
we weren't
was.
getting as much back from Lara, but he certainly kept biding his time. And by the time we got to the round where he ended up getting the stoppage, which is the seventh, he seemed to start to have a little more juice in his step, and you could see that there might have been a tide shifting moment had the fight gone on further from there.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, Wood was just busier. And even in that second round, he was first also winning, but then at the last minute of it, Lara really landed some big ones and shook him, and yeah, he just deserved that round, I thought, because I was before that I was about to give it to Wood also the second one, but then Lara just he turned it around and swung it his way with those big punches, and that's what happened. Yeah, so this was like I would compare this to the fight between Lennox Lewis and Frank Bruno in '93. Where Bruno really dominated most of the rounds, and but then in the seventh he just got caught and ran into a big, I think, left hook or doesn't matter, right hand, and then he just got pounced until the stoppage. So this is what happened pretty much. Lewis, like Lara, didn't really do well in the fight, but he just managed to finish it, in his advantage.
Oh yeah, yeah, good to go. Yeah, Lennox Lewis, Frank Bruno. That's good. That's
Bruno.
good stuff. Two big guys slugging it out right there. But or at least just figuratively, at least two big guys slugging it
Yeah.
out. I guess in the heavyweight division, any punch that lands is something major when you really boil it down. But yeah, Lennox
Hmm.
Lewis was a treat to watch back in the day, of course,
Yeah.
and this was at a time when I think he was a bit more faster and aggressive offensively. So that's a version of Lennox. And then we saw him mature, slow things down a bit more, especially there towards the tail end of his fight. But he still had that big punch, or the tail end of his career. But he still had that big
Yeah.
punch that he could work with.
Yeah. I mean, for his time, he was just a big, strong heavyweight with a big punch. And in that Bruno fight, he didn't look good. As I say, he got outboxed, by Bruno. But Bruno really fought the right fight until he he just walked into a big punch. He just got caught, kind of carried away. But yeah, I mean, yeah, Lennox Lewis just had that kind of power, to get out of such situations, when he was behind, fighting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, certainly. He was able to avenge all of his losses or his two losses, and he did it in
yeah.
greater fashion, you could say, in terms of when he had that opportunity for the rematch, and
What
he
happened
really
now?
did his
Sorry,
thing. There you
it's my
go.
camera. Yeah, all right. Sorry.
We lost you there for a sec, Bobs, but you're back in the mix here. So
Yeah,
for those watching, you would have seen the sequence, but it was quick, fast, and in a hurry. So yeah, you didn't miss much.
I wanted to add. Yeah, this is what I wanted to do.
All right, yeah, that's an interesting one right there. A brick wall in the background, bricks, but good stuff.
Yeah,
Now, on
very.
this card, this same card with Laura Wood, as mentioned, I haven't had the opportunity to see the other fights, though I was watching one of the fights with Yafai. I didn't see it in its entirety, but Dalton Smith was able to pick up a win, as well as Gary Coley, who Mr. Pads had mentioned, who got a second round TKO victory. Coley, big 6'2" fighter, or long and lengthy 6'2" fighter, fighting at lightweight.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's very interesting seeing such tall lightweights. But he has he has some he has tools that he utilizes well into his advantage, from what I've gathered and seeing him in the past, and has a good bit of pop on his punches,
Hmm.
coming with that length, similar to how Hitman Tommy Hearns used his length to get full leverage on those punches, and really had a good deal of pop whenever they landed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I haven't seen him yet, but I do think I believe you are. I can confirm that about Hitman Hearns. Yeah, he was
Yeah, yeah,
just.
indeed.
Yeah.
Now, on to what was the fight of the year thus far. And I think that many will subscribe to this same thinking. I know Mr. Paz mentioned he had heard such, and the whatever has been heard is true. So Luis Nery, it was a super bantamweight contest with Azat Hovhannisyan, and
Yes.
it turned out to be better than advertised, I would say. There was an expectation coming in that this was going to be a potential back and forth fight, an action fight, and it over delivered because these two were going at it for 11 rounds, and both had their moments. There were times when Hovhannisyan looked like he had the edge and he was landing some big stuff, and then there were times in which Luis Nery, threw caution to the wind, and he started to tee off and land some big punches. As a matter
Mm.
of fact, I believe Hovhannisyan was dropped, despite having a cut, of course. He was dropped in the 10th round, towards the tail end of the 10th round, and it looked like he was out. And this was after Luis Nery had been having a little bit of he wasn't really doing much, and Hovhannisyan was having a success in this round. Then out of nowhere, Luis Nery drops him, and Hovhannisyan was really hurt, as I mentioned, but he was able to get up and make it through the round, though barely. And then coming into the 11th, again, Luis Nery, who had been taking a lot of body punches, he was not throwing as many punches, and Havanesian was still leading a bit coming into the 11th before Luis Nery rattled off a couple of shots that hurt him and forced the referee, Ray Corona, I think is his name, and he stepped in to stop the contest. Now, Havanesian was still on his feet, but you could tell that he was taking some heavy damage, and that punch resistance had started to wither away a bit. So I think it was a good stoppage. You could kind of see what was to come, because Hovhannisyan, while he was game and still definitely looked as though he wanted to remain and stay in the fight, this was probably best for saving him from further damage, because he caught
Mm.
some big shots, and the way he was reacting to them, you could tell that they were taking more of an effect on him than they did in the previous rounds. But without a doubt, fight of the year, we got action throughout. And for those that haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Go check that fight out. It was on the Zone. It was a Golden Boy promoted card, so it should be available for replay, or even check out the highlights on YouTube, which they typically do. But a lot of what you'll hear today and for the remainder of the week when you hear boxing talk is that this was the fight of the year.
Yeah, I gotta check it out. I gotta find it. So, but anyway, this was a really important victory for Luis Nery, because he had been on the comeback trail after the loss to Figueroa, which was devastating, of course. Brandon
Mm-hmm.
Figueroa, right? Yeah. uh, so now he has actually, at least he can again challenge for a world title soon, I guess. And yeah,
Yeah,
he's now fighting at 122, of course.
yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yeah. That opens up the door for him for potential matchups. Names that were thrown out there, of course, are Inoue and Stephen Fulton.
yeah,
So
of
I
course.
believe Fulton and Inoue are supposed to fight at some point. I don't know if it's signed a 100% done deal or anything, but I had heard chatter. Matter of fact, I need to look that up. But of course, those are two guys in the division who are big threats, along with Mirajan Akhmadaliev, who
Oh
is the
yeah,
Impact
that's
fighter
right.
who has one of the titles, and he's a top notch, top level elite
Oh yeah,
guy who I really
I see.
like. So any combination of those matchups, I think, would be excellent.
I see. Akhmadaliev is now slated. I think in April that fight is again. He's gonna fight Marlon Tapales.
Oh yeah,
Tapales, yeah, a Filipino fighter who I've heard of, but I don't know about that much. But anyway, yeah, I mean, Akhmadaliev has a really strong resume now. He is beaten guys like Daniel Roman and sorry, Ryosuke Iwasa.
oh yeah,
Yeah, even stopped him, and that guy was no joke, of course, Iwasa. So
oh yeah, yeah, yep. Akhmadaliev beat him. So Iwasa beat Tapales back in
yeah,
2019.
hmm,
So this is for the IBF World Super Bantam and the WBA Super World Super Bantam.
yeah, he's the
Say that
unified
twice.
champ.
Super World Super Bantam. But
Yeah,
yeah, it should be
Murojo.
interesting.
Yeah, he's. I'm really excited to see what he can do, Mister Murojo.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm with you there. So that this will be a good opportunity. I think that Luis Nery has put himself right back in the mix there. He'll take a little time off from this fight of the year, I'm sure. But if one of those fights can be made with any of those guys, then I think that is an A
Hmm,
plus for him and for us as fans from a stylistic matchup.
yeah,
Because Nery, he has shown that he's the type of fighter who he's very talented. He can box and all that stuff, but he's not scared to get into a war with you if push comes to
yeah,
shove. And that was kind of his downfall with Brandon Figueroa, who is very aggressive offensively. And
oh yeah,
Figueroa was digging into the body a ton and was able to pull off that W. And I favorite Figueroa coming to that fight, given such. But I think Luis Nery, he still looks good, and I think he's motivated and ready to go, and he'll make it a tough fight for I think Fulton and
yeah.
in a way for as long as it lasts.
And he can punch too. I mean,
Yeah,
still, I mean, at bantamweight he was a really quite hard hitter, and I see now also. I mean, he was able to stop this tough guy
yeah,
Hovhannisyan after all.
yeah.
So
Yep, and this was deep into the fight, 11th round, showing that hey, I carry power. Shout out to Bruce Gas, Boxing Jazz and more. It says salute 86 and buys. Appreciate you being here, Bruce. Without a doubt, always enjoy you dropping by. Appreciate the love. Be sure if you're out there, you're listening, watching, whatever, check out Bruce Gas, Boxing Jazz and more. One of the great channels here on YouTube, or you get to listen to a bunch of boxing content and life content at that, very entertaining. So salute to you,
mm,
Bruce Gas. Appreciate you dropping by. Um, so yeah, Havanesian, man, I want to see him again. So I left from this fight, or I think the
mm,
majority will have left from this fight wanting to see both of these fighters back in the mix. Havanesian had a big cut under his right eye. It's going to take some time to heal. Big
yeah,
gash that was,
I,
and he was the bloodiest of the two. Luis Nery,
yeah,
I Can't remember if he had any cuts or anything, or if the blood that I primarily saw on him was Hovhannisyan's blood. But the two brought it, and they put on the type of show fans sign up
Love.
for. They deserve. They want to see it. They pay for.
Yeah.
And you gotta love it when you get these two fighters who are game. They
Mm.
no excuse with the politics and all this stuff. And it was just a fun and exciting fight on a what will go down as a very good night of boxing for the sport in itself. So I want to see both of these
Mm.
guys back out there in the mix at some point soon.
Yeah, and Hovhannisyan hasn't been stopped before, I think. So, it also speaks. That's why it's such a big triumph for Nery, and yeah, I mean, simply a really
Yeah.
good start to the year anyway.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he hadn't been stopped before.
Yeah,
They
he
put
had
on a
three
streak.
losses, I think, but he never been over like on points. Like, yeah.
Yeah, he's 21-4 now, but he had been on a streak since losing to Ray Vargas via
Oh yeah,
decision back in
right.
2018.
Hmm. Well, anyway, as I said, those Armenian fighters are tough,
Yeah,
tough sons of guns.
yeah, you're right in that sense. You're no doubt about it. They are tough, and Havanesians is right there at the top of the list of the toughest that are out there right now, fighting out of
Mm,
Armenia. Yeah, great great fighting history. You had a number of great fighters from there who have shown
mm.
up and did their thing in the sport.
Oh
But cool,
yeah.
yeah, that was a fight of the year. Also on this card, Shane Mosley Jr. He was making a return,
All right.
taking on Lozano, a Mexican fighter. And this was a super middleweight fight. Both of them
Hmm.
kind of came in short notice. This was added to the, I guess, billing. Shane Mosley Jr. versus Mario Alberto Lozano. It was pretty much
Hmm.
Mosley Jr. the majority of the way. His father, Shane Mosley, was there in attendance. It was good to see Shane out there.
Yeah.
They showed him, got some love, but yeah, Mosley Jr. He won pretty much the majority of the rounds. I think the official judges had him winning. One of them had him winning all rounds, and then another one had him winning all but
So
one. And
this.
I think that's kind of the story of the fight in itself. But
Hmm.
I don't. I like Mosley Jr. I think that he's a solid fighter. I remember him from the Contender Series. Of course, he was coming in as the guy with the name, and some others thought that he was going to be slim and easy pickings, but he ended up making it to the finals. That goes to show you he had something in him right there. And of course, in the
Hmm.
finals against Brian Adams, I believe his name, or his last name's Adams. I know for sure. He's a
Brian Adams.
boxer. But in that, of course,
Not the
Mosley
singer.
didn't have that shining performance that we expected him to have. But that being said, I think he's solid, and him being in the mix here, I'd imagine you could probably get down to 160. But either way, I think he's a name that adds a little bit of flavor, and I'd like to see him out there again. Of course, with another guy, see him in one of those step up fights and see what he has to offer now with more
Hmm.
experience heading into his career.
This wasn't his first fight, was it?
No, no.
All right. So
This
he
might have
has
been his
like.
first at 168.
All right. So he
It might
has
have
like.
been. I need to double check, but it
Hmm.
might have been his first at 168.
But it was kind of maybe a slight step up or something for him. Yeah.
So it was. The other guy was a veteran of the sport, of course, but he was. I think it was just one of those kind of just stay busy fights. I guess from the perspective of Mosley Jr.
Right.
Considering that he's the younger, fresher of the fighter. The other guy's a veteran of I want to say 40 plus fights or somewhere in that tune. So
Hmm.
he certainly knew how to fight coming into it and was going to make some noise. But I think the favorite was Mosley Jr. leading into it overall, and of course he did his thing, and he's right there in the mix. He's a name. It'll be
Hmm.
interesting to see if how things shake out if his name is thrown out there in the mix with some of the other guys at 168 right now who are looking for fights, or even 160. Because I
Hmm.
believe, yeah, 160 might be a viable option. And hey, it's wide open as we've all as we've discussed in the past, the 160-pound division, it was hot there for a minute, but as of right now, it's pretty much wide open with Canelo having moved up to 168. Now Demetrius Andrade's there at 168. So that leaves Charlo, Munguia, and some others, but no one. Oh yeah, Triple G, he's still there, but given his age, it's not
Yeah.
definitive as to who is the best at 160 pounds. So we need to see how some of these fights shape up, if they're actually made, because at this point, 168 seems to be kind of in purgatory.
Yeah, it's not having a good good time really. That
Yeah, and
division's
160 rather. I think I said 168, but 160 is what I'm talking
160. Yeah, yeah.
about.
It's kind of like in the mid 90s when the Roy Jones and James Stoney and all those guys left that division, and there was only Bernard Hopkins pretty much, of bigger names, and even he wasn't that big
Yeah,
back then. So
yeah, right.
yeah,
Yeah, it's certainly interesting. Yeah, and some of the fights that we thought we were going to see just haven't materialized. I don't know what's going on with Jamal Charlo, or whether anything is on the schedule for
he's
him. It's
just
like he hasn't fought in forever, and I know he had an injury that he dealt with there for a
missing
while. But
action, missing action.
yeah, certainly MIA, certainly MIA.
Yeah,
We have him. Triple G, he apparently vacated one of the belts that he had. I
yeah.
think he just has one belt now. So there's going to be a fight for a vacant. I believe it may have been IBF, but so there should be some vacant
Well,
fights. It's a question of who will be fighting for it. Of course, that will be the question.
Johnny Beck, he also has like WB, which one, 8 or 0? I'm not sure. No, maybe. Well, I think one of those anyway.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so he will probably get to fight maybe Mugiel. So I would like to see that
well
them
yeah,
two.
that would be a good one. Certainly,
Yeah,
we've been talking about wanting to see Hami Mungia in there with some stiff competition, and yeah, that would
mm,
be a good one. Of course, that
yeah,
would be a good one to have Janabek against Mungia. I think that just given the bravado of both fighters, I think they'll bring it. And I think that Mungia will be a big test for Janabek. We'll see where he's at, and it's not a given for either fighter. So certainly, it's a toss up type fight. The
mm,
betters may favor Mungia, I think, slightly. So that's one I certainly will want to see right there.
yeah. Mugia is just a force of nature, pretty much. And he is. I mean, in a real like dog fight, I don't know of anybody who could best him at 160 right now.
Oh
In
yeah,
a true war.
yeah, certainly, certainly. So yeah, I just pulled up the Ring ratings, Ring TV, Ring Magazine, their ratings. And yeah, they have Mungia number 2, Janabek number 3. And you're right, Janabek has the WBO uh,
Right.
middleweight title. And then IBF WBA, that was in the hands of Golovkin. But as mentioned, I think that IBF has now become vacant because
Mm.
Gennady isn't defending it, I guess, coming up
Yeah, I
anytime
don't
soon,
know.
or he wasn't going to defend it anytime soon. So that leaves that out there in the open. Then you have guys like Carlos Adames, who would make for a
Oh
good
yeah,
fight with any of these guys. Liam
very
Smith,
very good
Ryota Murata is
contender.
still out there.
Who?
Ryota Murata, he's still out there, along
Oh
with
yeah,
Sergey
yeah, yeah.
Derevianchenko. Though,
Yeah, I mean he's still a very good fighter, but maybe on the slide now.
yeah, certainly. Him and Derevianchenko, I think, we're both kind of in
Yeah,
a similar place.
especially after getting knocked out by Triple G.
Yeah.
He looked good in that fight, but for the first 5 rounds only. So that's
Yeah, and then you have Erislandy Lara, Felix Cash, and Chris Eubank Jr. rounding up the top 10. Of course, we know Lara's been around for a minute. His name is, I guess he's still ranked, not
yeah.
fighting as often these days, but he's still out there.
Oh yeah, Erislandi, yeah. Yeah, he's. I don't know what he's still doing, fighting. Like he's around all for almost 40 years old or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
yeah, you're right. He's 39.
yeah, hasn't been, in a real good fight for a while also. So I
Yeah,
don't know what he hopes to achieve. Same with Triple G.
yeah.
Yeah,
So he beat Gary Spike O'Sullivan in May of 2022. So we're approaching a year there, and prior to that, it had been
yeah,
a
right.
year because he had fought once in 2021 and once in 2020. So he's on a one fight a
Hmm.
year average, and of course aging. So that's a interesting recipe as always. So we'll see what he does. Then of course we may get Liam Smith versus Eubank Jr. too. Time will tell, of course, but I
Yeah,
wouldn't mind seeing it. I like Liam
yeah,
Smith.
that's yeah.
But
Liam Smith, that's right. He's at 160. I forgot.
yeah,
No, yeah,
yeah,
he is a really good addition to the division. But the problem is, I don't know how much longer he will be at his best. At his prime. He's 34 years old, or he's gonna be 35 actually this
yeah.
year.
Now certainly the time to jump in that mix. He's worked his way up.
Yeah.
He may get another title shot at some point. Though now's the time.
Oh yeah. I mean, he seems to be at the peak of his powers. And yeah, to put it that way,
Yeah,
he's never
another Golden
been
Boy
better.
fighter, Ricardo Sandoval. He picked up a second round stoppage victory yesterday as well over I believe, Nicaraguan fighter by the name of, or
Sandoval.
what is his first name, Jerson Ortiz. So this was Sandoval. I saw a clip of it. He landed a good body shot that sent dude down and out. He couldn't get up and recover from that. It's caught him nicely. So
Right.
Sandoval, he's a pretty decent young fighter with
Hmm.
potential for sure.
Nice.
Let me see. Also, there was a card on Friday the 17th. Now, I haven't seen this one, but it was a Showbox card. So it's one that I want to go back and check out. Those Showbox cards are usually pretty good because you have a lot of even matchups that take place on them. We get to see potential future stars at
Hmm.
work. And then also on the 17th, I see that David Adelaide picked up a
Oh
second
yeah.
round TKO victor in 10-round heavyweight contest against Dmitro Bezus, who is a Ukrainian fighter who was
Yeah.
10 and 0.
That's a Ukrainian name. Yeah, that's right. Dmitro. Yeah.
Yeah, so both came in 10 and 0. So looks like Adelaide got his victory. He's someone who's been on the scene a little bit. They're pushing
Hmm.
as a potential future heavyweight threat. Haven't seen a ton of competition, or he hasn't seen a ton of, or really any high level competition as of yet. So the verdict, of course, is still out, but he'll be an interesting name there in the mix, and I'd like to see him in there with some and what will be a step up fight or something of that nature. I'm gonna go back and try to check this one
Hmm.
out and kind of just see where he's at right now.
Yeah, I haven't really followed him much, I must admit.
Yeah.
Hmm.
He's just someone that they're pushing as a potential, future threat
Yeah,
or
so
star
many,
there at heavyweight.
Yeah, I think Moses Itama is, of course, looking good of new prospects, but he's just had one fight, as we said before, but he really looked impressive. So I'm
Yeah,
really looking forward to following him, in future, and maybe also Johnny Fisher, that
Johnny Fisher is good to go.
yeah, English hope.
Maybe we'll
So,
see a Johnny Fisher David Adelaide fight at some point. I think that would be
but
good.
yeah. Oh yeah, and also did you see I actually posted that it's a new the news that I saw today that actually they it seems to be that Andy Ruiz may gonna have to fight Hergovich
Oh yeah,
next. Yeah.
no,
What do
I
you
didn't
think
know that.
about that fight? What a big contrast between these two
Yeah,
physically,
certainly,
style
certainly,
wise. Yeah.
certainly. Sign me up for it. I think that would be a good contest right there, stylistic matchup wise. And we got the young gunning Hergovich taking on Andrew Ruiz, former world heavyweight champion, who's been on the rebound somewhat and looking
Yeah,
to throw his name back in the mix there as the top dog or one of the top dogs. And this would be a good test for him for sure. I had heard of Ruiz being mentioned as a potential opponent for Deontay Wilder, which I would like to see that one even more. Ruiz
mm,
versus Wilder, because of course that
oh
matchup
yeah,
has higher implications. But I'm guessing that PBC may have other plans, considering that both Wilder and Ruiz are PBC, and this fight is now being mentioned. So it'll be
yeah,
interesting. So that makes me wonder where that leaves Wilder in terms of who his potential next opponent will be.
yeah. I think I must say, Ruiz, if Hergovich if fights him, it will be a hard fight for Hergovich because of Ruiz' superior, movement and hand speed and all that. But also, of course, it's a rather dangerous fight for Ruiz because Hrgovic has the power, to put him away actually, and to get him in trouble, if nothing, And there's a big height, of course, disadvantage for Ruiz, but he's shown before against Joshua that he is good at overcoming, those disadvantages, and
Oh yeah,
yeah.
without a doubt. So I want to mention a tweet, Michael Benson quoting Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder has declared that he is now an open agent and taking full control of his career. He said, "No bad blood. I'm still part of PBC. I'm just an open agent, open fighter. I want to fight on all types of platforms. I'm willing to work with anyone."
Hmm.
So that's interesting. And of course, a challenge was issued by Francis Ngannou, the MMA fighter who wants to fight Tyson Fury and I guess Deontay Wilder now. So we'll see if that is going to be something
Yeah,
that materializes.
I've seen Wilder also has kind of been talking about Joshua, how he will destroy him, but that
Hey,
fight hasn't yet been,
I'd
like
like to see
mentioned.
it. That's
Yeah,
one that we should have had at some point. It would
yeah,
have been. I think it would have been. I think it would have been one of the biggest fights
oh
in
yeah. I mean,
certainly of the past
in
20 years in terms of the numbers that I believe it would have done had the two of them came in and
yeah, I
fought each
mean,
other right when they're at that sort of peak before they had those losses and had looked bad
yeah,
against anyone or that nature. I think that would have been one of the biggest fights in boxing. I think I would have held it up. I think I had it at number one at one point because I felt that good about how the masses and I think mainstream media would have latched on to that as well.
yeah. I mean, it would have been, I believe, Joshua would have been a much or an easier opponent for Wilder than Fury,
Yeah,
because he's not really that very technical MMA fighter, or he's just uses the jab to set up the big punches, and that's
yeah,
pretty much it. And yeah, it's a shame that fight didn't happen in 2018 or 19,
yeah,
before Joshua lost to Ruiz and before Wilder lost to Fury, of course.
yeah. It would have been huge. Now that being
Yeah.
said, of course, if it still happens now, I'm all for it. I want to see it, just
Mm,
to see what each has to offer. As you mentioned, of course, Joshua has Jermaine Franklin on deck here coming up, so
mm,
we'll have to see how he looks against Franklin, as if he's able to get past
yeah.
him. Which, of course, I'm sure they want Joshua back in the win column, having dropped these two losses to Alexander Usyk, and Franklin isn't someone who seemingly will outpower and outpace Joshua. So that's probably why they went with him as the opponent. It does
Mm,
definitely has the potential for Joshua to look good because he is very much, a different fighter than Dillian White. And I think it'll be more of a challenge for Franklin against
oh
Joshua
yeah,
than it probably was against Dillian White.
yeah. He's more athletic, definitely, than Dillian White. Better mover and all that. and I think Franklin will give him a good fight, very likely. But of course, he doesn't have the power, and so he's never can't be seen as a serious challenge to Joshua. To a possible how to say favorite to win. He can never be that, of course.
Yeah,
But yeah, he can
yeah,
give him a good test anyway.
yeah. That's what I'm thinking as well. There will be just a a good little test for Joshua, but for all intents and purposes, I think Joshua is going to win that fight. He may even get a stoppage in that fight. We'll see how
Oh
Franklin's
yeah.
chin holds up. He seems to be pretty tough, but it'll be very
Hmm.
interesting. I will say, most
Yeah.
certainly, very interesting.
Yeah, I mean Joshua now has to win and win like in a big style. Otherwise,
Yeah,
I don't know if he will keep getting big fights if he looks poor also against or Franklin, or if he doesn't impress. Simply if he just kind of just manages to get by him with a points victory, or I don't know, cut stoppage or something like that.
yeah,
So
yeah. Certainly. So yeah, it'll be interesting. And of course, then hopefully, I guess we're getting Alexander Usyk versus Tyson Fury, and that should level things at heavyweight as far as we'll walk away from there with a undisputed champion in the heavyweight
yeah,
division, which is a plus and will be the first time since the three belt era. So I'm looking forward
yeah,
to that.
that'll be huge, man. I mean, just imagine if Usyk wins. I mean, all these guys who were saying, "Oh, he's not a heavyweight," he will fail. Will be eating their, their words or their
Yeah,
heads, whatever.
yeah,
and
certainly.
yeah,
Usyk has shown that hey, he's in fact and indeed a heavyweight, and he went
yeah,
about it the right way. There's a way of going about it. Some probably know more about the method to the madness, but certainly
mhm,
Usyk and his team, they went about it in what seemed to be a very scientific manner in terms of how they chose to pack on the weight and how Usyk was pretty much able to maintain the majority of what he had to offer at cruiserweight. So it really looks no different outside of being a bit bigger. So that's a plus.
mm, yeah, yeah. I mean, he's obviously trained hard and kind of well. Anyway, he wants to be able to not have to just run from Fury because he's so heavy, he's so huge, but he wants to be able to, kind of hang in there and, you know, just
Indeed.
not
Indeed.
not run all the time, simply.
Certainly, we don't need that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I would really like. I personally, I would like him to win because Fury hasn't really been how to say hasn't carried himself so gracefully as a champion always. Has
yeah,
said certain things about other fighters that were not good, and then, well, of course, we can, of course, ignore that because many others do that. But the problem is that he chose to fight Dillian White and Derek Chisora instead of, somebody like, I don't know, somebody better. Simply, I mean,
yeah, yeah. I think I've said this before. I think it's better for the heavyweight division in the sport if Usyk wins because
yeah,
it's certainly going to alter things if Fury becomes undisputed. I think he's going to retire again
yeah,
because of the fact that he already feels he's accomplished everything that can be accomplished in the sport thus far. So my thought is that he will retire if he becomes undisputed. And of course, he likely will get the itch to come back at some point again down the road. But I just think it'll be very dramatic in terms of if Fury
yeah.
wins and becomes undisputed.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, I think that Joshua didn't avoid Wilder or Fury because he was, scared of them because he can also punch, obviously himself. So I mean, I would believe it more if he wasn't a puncher, but I think it was more like Eddie Hearn who wasn't keen on, him losing, that possibility, losing his golden hand.
Yeah,
and that's really a shame, because Fury was also calling him out after he just came back, but of course there was no response, and then of course Wilder stepped up.
Yeah.
So credit to Wilder for that anyway.
Oh yeah, certainly, certainly. Props deserved for that. So
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of stuff, a lot of implications coming up with some of these heavyweight fights. Now,
Mm.
since we're in that ballpark neighborhood, we can talk about some of the upcoming fights. So for this week, no, for this coming weekend, no truly huge names, I would say. But then again, yeah, I guess there are some huge names. Let's make sure this weekend is correctly. Yeah, there is. Matter of fact, I guess the early parts. There's a Thursday card that is going to be on the zone. I'm guessing a Golden Boy card. It's going to be John Ramirez taking on Luis Padilla, and this is going to be on a Thursday. Ramirez is 10-0, and it's a super
Mm.
flyweight contest. So
Right.
I'll try to check that out for sure. Then Friday, there's a vacant British super featherweight championship matchup taking place, and that's Friday the 24th. Saturday the 25th, you have Sabriel Matias,
Oh, yeah.
who is a very good fighter who packs a punch, or not that really one punch knockout power, but just I guess enough of accumulated punching or accumulative punching, and he seems to have some pop to him, or enough at least to do damage because he stopped the majority of
Mm.
his opponents. But he's going to be taking on Jeremias Ponce.
Yeah.
He's going to be in Minnesota, 12-round super lightweight championship, super lightweight fight, not no championship, of course. Matthias being a Puerto Rican, Ponce from Argentina. So that should be an interesting one.
Yeah, I think so. I've heard of. I mean, I've seen Matthias fight also, at
Yeah.
least on one occasion. He's a pretty exciting fighter.
Yeah,
I
yeah, he is. He is. Yeah, I've seen him fight a number of times. I caught him in person once. Um, I was at that event that unfortunately, Maxim Dadashev. So Matthias is the one that beat him
mm,
when Dadashev died. A few days later or whatever, a week later, something like that. He was in a fight with Matthias, so he
oh
doesn't
yeah,
have that little flashy type of power, but he does pack a punch for sure.
yeah, those guys.
Mr. Pad says Josh and Boz are excited for Badu Jack versus Makabu, 26th February, I believe. Yep, yep. So that one is coming up. Yeah, we were
Yeah,
talking about this a little bit last week. Certainly, it should be an interesting one. One of the things we were saying, and in my opinion, is it certainly is like a toss up at this point because Makabu hasn't been very busy as of the last few years. Now he's been a long stay there at cruiserweight, and he's naturally a cruiserweight, so that plays in his favor. Badu Jack, of course, he's moved up to cruiserweight. He doesn't look like a cruiserweight in terms of just his overall size and body. That being said, of course, we know he's skilled and polished enough to give anyone trouble on any given night. So I think it's a pretty even matchup for the most part. I could see favor leaning towards Makabu, just given he's the naturally bigger guy. But I think that, of course, Badu Jack is crafty enough where he can potentially upset the apple cart a bit. What do you think, Boz?
yeah. I think definitely Jack is should not be excluded. He does have the skills. I mean, skills wise, I would say he's better than Makabu. Of course, the
Yeah,
punching power that goes to Makabu, that advantage, no doubt. But as you said, Makabu has been rather inactive, and so we don't know really where he is in that kind of in the terms of form. Now I would think that he's no longer at his best anyway. But
yeah,
of course, neither is Jack, so
yeah,
that's
yeah,
gonna
true.
be a good, I guess, a good fight to just show us where both men are. Like in
Yeah,
terms of,
maybe the loser retires or something.
yeah, maybe.
But good
So
stuff.
I'm not sure who I would favor, really, to put it that way. It's pretty a 50-50 fight for me, really.
Yeah, Mr. Pad says I like Badu, but I thought Popeye beat him. Oh yeah, Popeye Rivera. So yeah, I
Yeah,
remember seeing that fight, Mr.
very
Pad.
close.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was very close. It was a very close fight. I think I may have slightly given an edge to Badu Jack, but had Popeye won, or those who believe that Popeye won, yeah, I wouldn't argue against you in any a definitive manner because yeah, Popeye had it close, and he had his moments as well. And Badu Jack, yeah, he didn't overly impress in that fight for sure. And we know Popeye was actually coming
Mm.
up from light heavyweight. It was his first time fighting at cruiserweight when they ultimately did fight. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
Jack
so I think
was.
yeah, it could have gone the other way very well, which makes this one with Makabu very interesting. We're gonna have some questions answered with this fight as it relates to both of them because yeah, we'll see where they are as far as their trajectory moving forward.
Oh yeah, yeah. As you said, Jack is not a cruiserweight. I wish he could have stayed at 175, but he
Oh yeah,
just couldn't for some reason. Wasn't able
yeah,
to make
yeah.
the weight. I
He's a
guess.
cruiser now, cruiser
Yeah,
now. But yeah, big up to him for sure. Random acoustic thoughts says, "Big up, fellas. Salute to you, random acoustic thoughts. Appreciate you dropping in. We're talking some boxing. We're wrapping things up, as a matter of fact, or there towards the tail end. We're just talking about some of the fights that were coming up. Mayweather Jr. is going to be fighting in an exhibition as well on Saturday. It looks like Elvin
right.
Rodriguez is going to be taking on one of the Adorno brothers. That should be a pretty good fight right there.
Mm.
Elvin Rodriguez, he was previously with top or Elvis. I said Elvin, but it's Elvis, and he's taking on Joseph Adorno. Elvin was previously top rank, and he ended up being dropped. But he's 11-1 with one draw. Joseph Adorno 17-1 with two draws. So this should be a pretty interesting matchup right here. I like it, and I think it's a fairly even matchup. As a matter of fact, that's based on what I
Yeah,
know of each fighter. It should be a fairly even matchup. We also get the return of Jamal James as well. He's going to be fighting coming up. He lost to Batayev last year at some point, and
yeah. Right job. Yeah,
Batayev is sort of one of those stunning, brutal punchers, I guess you can say. Not necessarily knockout artist, but just made of that type of stuff where he's super tough and can punch.
Oh
So
yeah. I was
he
also,
stopped.
by the way, I
Yeah, he
saw
stopped James.
very good news when that Joe Cordina will be fighting
Oh yeah,
Rakhimov. Was it? Yeah, Rakhimov, Shafkat John. So that
yeah. I
will,
did see Cordina was going to be fighting coming up. So that
so
is
that's exactly the fight I wanted to happen right now in that division. One of the fights I really was like praying for to happen. So
well,
I
yeah,
hope
yeah,
it
yeah.
will.
Good stuff. Yeah, Rakimov, Cordina Rakimov. Yeah, this should be a very interesting matchup. Yeah, Rakimov coming off that victory over Zelfa Barrett where he stopped
Yeah,
him. So, excuse me. Yeah, and then Cordina had that excellent knockout over
oh
Kenichi
yeah,
Agawa, top level, just top level knockout over Kenichi Agawa. So this will be a very interesting matchup right here. This is another one that is
yeah.
kind of a 50-50 fight depending on what you favor. Both of them are skilled fighters. Man, that as far as the game changer between the two is just, of course, that knockout that Cordina was able to get over Kenichi Agawa is just so brilliantly set up, and it's a beautiful shot. So this will be an
I'll be
interesting matchup
trying.
between the two.
As a matter of fact, I just realized that fight will happen when I may be in UK at the time. So I know a guy who is from Cardiff where
Oh
that
yeah.
fight will happen. So I'll try to go to that fight. Actually, I
Okay,
can.
cool. That'd be
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah. Bob's reporting live from Cardiff. Let's make
yeah,
it happen. No, that would be
that's right.
cool. That would be super dope right there. I think it's going to be a good matchup, a good fight,
Yeah,
and happening in Cardiff. hey, that's going to bring out the fans. We know the UK fans are top notch as it relates to the sport of boxing, without a doubt. So I'd imagine it should be a pretty special moment. So I'm looking forward to both of them. I've liked Cordina from what I've seen from him over the years, and I know he was highly touted from a prospect perspective. And he's thus far, hey, he's answered the call when he got his step up opportunity there with a Gawa. Did it in dramatic fashion. So I'm looking forward to this fight without a doubt.
Yeah,
Random Matisse Thoughts
Corina.
just finished it in the back. Word, he says,
Corina
great talking
has
to
the
you about Langford
Corina.
versus Lang in 1911 the other day. Oh, yeah, salute to Random. So, yeah, be sure to check out Random Acoustic Thoughts. He does mention we were having a discussion on the great Sam Langford versus Bill Lang, an Australian heavyweight, former Australian heavyweight champion. As a matter of fact, Langford took the belt from him since Langford was also an Australian
Sam
heavyweight champion.
Langford. That discussion never ends.
Yeah, without a doubt. So Langford, yeah, he comes up all the time as part of discussions we're having there. But yeah, it was a great
Hmm.
discussion. It's one of the few videos where we get to see Langford in action, him taking on Bill Lang. You just get to see a little bit of what made him who he was, the way he stalks him, cuts the ring off, and have Lang pretty much on the back foot in retreat the entirety of what's available as far as the clips that we do have out there to see. So salute to Random Acoustic Thoughts. Be sure to check them out.
1911, yeah. The time of the Mexican Revolution.
Oh yeah, 1911. Yeah, you're right. So very interesting stuff right there. And then Saturday the 26th, I want to mention we do have your favorite fighter there, Boz, Jake Paul taking on Tommy Fury. So
Oh yeah, yeah. Finally, that's
we
gonna
finally get
happen.
this
Oh,
grudge match that's been built up over the last year.
been in the making like seems like forever. No,
Oh yes,
yeah.
oh yes, without a doubt. Oh, and I'm seeing here now an excellent fight that's coming up on March 4th is going to be Brandon Figueroa against Magnifico Magsayo or Maxayo,
Oh yeah, nice.
Mark Maxayo, Filipino fighter. That should be
I
an
like.
excellent match.
Yeah, I like Maxayo. Yeah, he's really great. I mean, warrior, puncher, and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. He's gonna test Figueroa's chin, which thus far
Mm.
has passed with flying colors, but we'll see. This should be a very
Then
interesting and excellent matchup.
he'll- if he doesn't get knocked out, he'll get that tag approved. The chin is approved.
Yeah, certainly. So it should be interesting for sure. So that's coming up. Oh, and it looks like we get the return of Jarrett Hurd at middleweight as well, who hasn't fought in a minute. I know it's been a minute for him, but we get the return of Jarrett Hurd on March 4th, and this is going to take place in
He's really kind of lost his
Ontario.
way. I mean, wow, man.
Yeah, he had a lot of steam for sure, and that's kind of died down a bit. So we'll see.
For a
Oh,
while,
and
it looks
also,
like he was gonna be the man at 154, and then one loss, and bang, he
yeah,
almost.
yeah, it is crazy how that happens, right? But yeah, he
Yeah,
had that trajectory. Like, okay, yeah, he was gonna be the guy, and of course, we never got to see the fight with Charlo,
yeah,
Jermell
what a
Charlo, that is.
shame. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe when I heard he lost to Brandon J. Rock Adams, was it? Yeah,
Yeah,
or yeah. Well, anyway, that was a big shock for me. Well, like what?
yeah, J Rock, hey, he put on the performance of his career in that one, in the sense that J Rock, yeah, he came in 100% ready to go in that one, so that was a
Mm,
good one.
J. Rock, that's a nice alias.
Okay, Mr. Pat says Zoo Harrison March 12th too. Oh wow,
Yeah,
okay.
that's
So Tim
very good
Zoo.
one. Mm.
Yep. So what happened with Jamel? Is the injury going to take longer? I'm guessing.
Yeah, probably. I haven't heard of any news from his corner.
Yeah,
From
because I
yeah.
thought it was just postponed at first, but it looks like Tony the Tiger Harrison had stepped in. That should
Hmm.
be still a good matchup right there. I know Harrison has been speaking. He's always game to jump in there and step in and fight with anyone. So I like this
True.
matchup. So this should be
Yeah.
very interesting. So yeah, I'm seeing it right here. So it's going down. Oh yeah, and Tony is flying down to Sydney. He's going to go to Sydney. So there's going to be an interim WBO junior middleweight championship on the line. So it should be a good one.
Sydney, yeah, oh nice, yeah. It's
Oh, and I
where
see my guy TJ Doheny is going to be in action against Sam Goodman. So TJ Doheny is a
oh yeah,
Irish fighter.
TJ.
I like him.
Yeah, well, I think he's like based in New Zealand or Australia or something like that.
Yeah,
I
yeah. I
think,
think Australia maybe because this is going
yeah,
down in Australia.
TJ Doheny, yeah. Yeah, he was a world champion for a while also, yeah.
Yeah, Conlon beat him to pick up a title.
Oh yeah, that was like the interim
And I,
title.
I gave Conlon his respect after that fight because I was unsure of Conlon prior to that Doheny fight, and I think he showed
Yeah,
his mettle against Doheny.
yeah, Conor just, yeah, I don't know what happened against Wood. It looked like he had that fight won, until
Oh
that
yeah,
last round.
yeah. I'm seeing here on the back end of the year, there's a lot of crazy fights that are going to be going down for sure. Luis
Just,
Ritson
yeah.
versus
Oh,
Louis Ritson versus Ohari Davis.
he's not so good, is
Yeah,
he?
certainly we got Jarrell Big Baby Miller taking on
Kind
Marcus
of
Brown.
mediocre fight, I'd
Yeah, and
say
this is
that.
going to be in the UAE. It certainly is. And Miller, I guess he's trying to rebound from all those uh,
Oh,
pop
big
tests.
baby.
He had a year of popping on tests, a couple of
Hmm.
years of that. And then I see that we're going to get Gongora back in action. I believe he's Colombian or Venezuelan, one of the two.
Gongora, yeah, quite a last thing like Fundora, yeah, something.
Carlos Gongora. He's taking on Christian Mbili. Mbili is French, 23-0.
Oh yeah, I heard of that guy. I mean, came across that name
I need to
before.
check
Yeah.
him out because this might be a pretty good fight. Might be a sleeper. I like Gongora.
And of course, well, we already talked about, I believe, Benavides versus Plant. Yeah, that's the big one
Oh
for
yeah, that's going
North.
to be a big one for sure. That's definitely
Yeah,
going to be a big one that should
huge,
answer a lot of questions right there. Oh, and I see
no
Chris
doubt.
Colbert is going to be fighting on this card as well against
Colbert. Yeah.
Jose Valenzuela. You
He
know,
he
that's
any
a
relation to Stephen Colbert?
yeah.
Colbert.
Oh yeah, Stephen whatever. Yeah, so Chris Colbert. So he's gonna be
Mm,
taking on Jose Valenzuela. Interesting fight right there. We'll see what Colbert's made of. See if he can bounce back from that Garcia loss against what will be, I guess, his toughest test since then. But I like Valenzuela as well, so that should be an interesting fight. So
mm,
this Plant Benavidez I see now is going to be a pay-per-view.
of course.
I didn't know that would be the case at first, but
damn, damn.
yeah, interesting. Interesting.
It's gonna be yeah, I think it will be all fireworks. I mean, when you have a fighter like Benavides, it can't be boring, of course, yeah.
Oh yeah, I'd imagine. Mr. Pat says Mbili is very nice, knockout puncher, very strong. Good stuff. I'm gonna have to look up some
Mm,
of his stuff, so that should make it interesting because I've seen Gongora
yeah.
fight a few times, and he's very solid for sure. So we'll see if that power is game changing enough to do the thing for Mbili. I need to check him out though, see
Mm,
what he looks like. I don't think I've seen him. At least I don't remember off top that I've seen him. But certainly I see he's 23-0, so that should be a very interesting one. Mr. Pat said, "Did you see that Broner had another fight canceled? LOL, his opponent broke his jaw, trained by Roy Jones Jr., and Jones had him spar like 1 week prior to the fight." I did see that that had happened. I know they were doing a last minute scramble to try and find an opponent for Jones or for Broner. Yeah, Michael Williams Jr. Yeah, I
well,
saw he got a broken jaw. And I know his father was mad about it. So I knew of Michael Williams only because I know that I'm friends with his father on Facebook, and I would see a bunch of postings and all that stuff. Now I don't go in there often, so I don't know if he's posted something recently, but I'm sure he probably has. But I did hear about that him having a broken jaw, and I guess they're no longer working with Roy Jones, and it's very interesting.
Yeah,
Seems like a
that guy.
messy situation, but the whole
Yeah.
situation around surrounding BLK Prime and Broner trying to make a fight has just been messy from the jump. And he's gone from I don't even know what opponent number it is now, but it's been crazy. I know it was at one point going to be Ivan Redcatch, Hank Lundy, this guy,
Oh no.
someone else might have been
Hope
thrown out
not.
there.
Hank Lundy, he still fights somewhere.
Yeah, right. Well, he couldn't get cleared for the for the fight or something of that nature because of some cut or something. Or at least,
Yeah.
yeah. But Lundy is
That's
still out there, hanging on. I
unbelievable.
guess you can say.
Yeah, I mean, that guy's prime like ended in, I don't know, 2012 or something.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. Yeah, he's been at it for a minute, veteran of the game, but yeah, he's still out there, trying to compete. I guess you could say.
Yeah,
I guess he's about on par with Broner, so that would have been probably a even matchup, at least
bro.
given where they are career wise.
Roar is such, he's such a jinx. He's plagued with bad luck, it seems to me.
Oh yeah, and Figueroa. Yeah, they were gonna fight Figueroa.
Born
Yeah,
under a bad
the other
sign.
Figueroa, Omar Figueroa.
You know that song? It's an old blues song, Born Under a Bad Sign. It's like,
Yeah, right. It's like
says,
it's crazy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mr. Fad, yeah. Omar Figueroa. I remember Broner pulled out of that fight for some mental health
Panterita.
or whatever, which of course real deal stuff. But yeah, I don't know where to go from here. But I think that thing was doomed from the jump in terms of the fact that it was pay per view and there was not a marquee opponent for Adrian Broner. So I think that it was going to be doomed from the jump as far as any legitimate, really pay per view sales or whatever the heck they were expecting to get out of it. I would have wondered if they were going to make their money back for sure. So yeah, this is very interesting with BLK Prime. We'll see how long they're able to maintain in the game, especially if you're putting your backing in Broner really to carry them. Because I think the Terrence Crawford fight was a one fight deal or something of that nature. So whether he'll be back on BLK Prime is still of question. So I know they're really pushing Broner. So we'll see where they go from here. But certainly this has been a crazy sequence with this whole pay per view, and yet pay per view, and then the undercard didn't seem to be up to snuff either because it was going to be Mickey Bay versus Tevin Farmer. They've been trying to fight for like a year plus or something like that, and it hasn't worked out, and still hasn't worked out. At this point, maybe they should look for another opponent, and it will work out. They should not try to fight each other. Maybe their luck will start to turn in their favor.
yeah,
So
I mean, yeah,
interesting stuff
no,
with the sport of
I don't
boxing,
think
without a
so.
doubt.
Well, yeah, Bruno just has the wrong attitude. That's hard to change, of course, and yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and
But
then
yeah,
there's
that
the
was yeah. Just had to mention a major news that were about Tank Davis. You heard about that?
oh yeah, him and Ryan Garcia. It's a done deal, right?
Yeah, but no, but there's some things that it seems like he like was caught drunk driving or something, and he has some kind of now. They say maybe he will have to go to jail. Even I don't know really
Oh
what happened.
yeah, there's something. Yeah, some kind of hit and run type situation. They
Yeah,
said the sentencing isn't until May, so it shouldn't jeopardize the fight in terms of
all right.
he should still be able to do this fight in April. But yeah, he does have that pending, and then he has that thing from December pending as well, where his girlfriend or baby mama called the cops on him, before the fight with Hector Garcia, and
All
there
right.
were some questions, and then she retracted her statements or retracted
Yeah,
the report or something like that, and it was thrown out because she didn't cooperate with it. So yeah, certainly troubling for sure. We'll see
yeah.
if he can keep his head on tight. Uh, you know,
Hopefully,
it's
yeah.
crazy. It's crazy how that is right there. You guys gotta Make sure
Yeah,
you, man. There's so many ways you can find yourself in these type of situations. You got to stay dialed in and focused. And I know it
yeah.
can be hard when you're young and you're getting money, but he's gonna definitely have to tighten that up because
Hmm. Boxing is full of these stories, unfortunately, with these very promising young boxers and doing well, and then suddenly something like this happens, and then they just wind up, like it's an evil circle, like
yeah, yeah,
they think, all right, I'm gonna be fine. I'm just gonna do this sentence, and then but then they just continue getting involved in bad stuff,
yeah. Just as he's
Yeah.
becoming that superstar of the sport, one of the top names of the sport, and you don't
Oh
want
yeah.
that derailed by a bunch of nonsense outside of the ring, and
Of course.
that's where he's gonna have to tighten up some stuff without a doubt.
Hmm. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, stay out of Atlanta. Stay out of Atlanta
Yeah.
there, Tank.
Stay on the straight and narrow.
But yeah, yeah, certainly. But yeah, good to go. So yeah, we're about an hour 20. I think that kind of pretty much
Hmm.
sums up all of the key and significant stuff that went down. So we can call it a day, Boz, and
Yep.
we'll be back in the mix next week without a doubt.
Yep. You
So
know
thank
it.
you for everyone that dropped by. Of course, Mr. Patch, appreciate you dropping in. Random acoustic thoughts, my mom, Bruce Gas, boxing and jazz. We appreciate all of you dropping in. Of course, great discussion, getting some conversation and dialogue going. We always enjoyed that. But yeah, we'll certainly be back in the mix. Of course, feel free to hit us up. The Boxing Haven on Facebook. Of course, we'll be in the mix there. And yeah, stick around.
Yep.
Have a good
Stick.
one, everyone. Enjoy your weekend.
Have a nice weekend, everybody.